All right. So this is the first time that I'm recording this, and there's another car pulling up in here in this parking lot. Okay, I think they're leaving. Yeah, they're leaving. I think they were just trying to do a K turn into here just to go the other way. All right, so we can begin. Um, in this video, which is the second ever video that I record, um, I want to talk about pretending. It just kind of struck me. I was working out. I mean, I don't know. I have a bunch of different ideas for like a first video that I want to record. I'm just making sure that the frame looks as good as it can because I got that on my Apple Watch. I don't know if you could tell, but well, I was at the gym, and I mean these previous days as I've been like kind of preparing myself to record these videos. There's a bunch of different things that I want to talk about, which I sort of stated briefly in the first video. Um, Words are never going to be able to fully capture everything. And that's kind of like the beautiful thing in terms of just kind of being able to speak on these topics because I can just speak on the same topics, on various different topics, kind of like over and over again over time. And I think somewhere in there, like whether it be one video today or another video 7 months down the road or 5 years down the road, I could be talking about something that I've mentioned before. I don't know if you're understanding what I'm trying to say, but we can revisit these topics. And just because these topics, maybe they sound like repetition, like if I speak about them over and over again, but in reality, they're things that we deal with every day. And if it's not something that you're personally dealing with, another person may be dealing with. So it's just going to be something that happens on this channel where we just kind of like revisit topics and kind of discuss them again and again. I'm looking at like where it's capturing my voice, and I think if I project my voice a little bit louder, it should be picking up my voice just fine. But if I speak a little low like this, no, I think it's still picking it up. So I think we're good. All right. So the one that I want to talk about right now is pretending, and I'm personally someone who doesn't like to pretend. Pretending really isn't in my nature. Um, and sometimes pretending is kind of necessary to get by. There is that one saying that says, fake it till you make it. But I don't think anything, if you make it, depends on what you're making it on. I don't think necessarily that you were really faking it. I think a part of you probably wanted it, and so you weren't really faking it. But I mean, that can apply to a plethora of different scenarios. I'm always going to be looking at the cars driving by because this is still kind of strange to me. But pretending has never really been my thing. I can't pretend that something is okay when it's not. I can't pretend to be something I'm not. And I can go down more options, but I'm not trying to, you know, get myself stuck on thinking of different things. But you can kind of get the point of what I'm trying to get at. And Pretending for me, again, it's just something that I can't sit right with because if I pretend that something is okay when it's not, then I feel like I'm not really bringing light to the reality of the situation, whether it be in a relationship, in a friendship, in something that I'm struggling within myself. You know, um, it's just something I can't do. And I'm sure that I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. I'm sure that I have pretended many times before. And the closest thing that I could think of at this moment is while I'm at work, you know, pretending like I'm there to really just care about the work that we're doing. And the reason why that sort of has to happen is because, well, I need, just as anybody else, we need some sort of way to be able to provide, and not just provide, but be able to sustain some sort of financial gain, so some sort of financial status, I guess, just to pay off the things that we need to pay off. And what I'm doing right now in terms of these videos, um, it's interesting that we live in the age of technology, but just not of technology, but it's getting to the point where you can communicate not only just by using technology, but you can sort of communicate with technology, um, in a way, and that's using AI. It's been helpful for me to at least for me, it's been helpful to just communicate with something like ChatGPT, because it'll, I can tell it anything. I can tell it how I'm feeling. I can tell it what the other day actually, I had ChatGPT break down my astrological chart, that if that is the proper way to say that, and a lot of what was in there was interesting. And I would recommend anybody to really kind of like look into that stuff, not just to like feel like I know some people, especially people that are very scientific, um, they want something grounded in reality and something that you can prove. But I would, um, and it's not to change anybody. It's not to really want to. Again, I don't want to change anybody. If you feel comfortable in something, that's totally okay. And if you feel like that's who you are and that's what you, not only who you are, but if that's what you want, um, then stick to your ways. No one is ever, at least me, I'm not going to make you change who you are. Because again, that goes back to pretending. You don't have to pretend. If something is really wrong, and you have something to say about it, you'll know that you'll have something to say about it because you'll feel it in you. And I was watching a video earlier today talking about the differences between, not the differences, but the distinction between emotions and feelings. And not to let your feelings, I guess, disrupt or destroy a lovely situation, or not just a lovely situation, but just don't pour out destruction, really. I think that's what it comes down to. You should be able to feel what you feel. And sometimes what that really means is just kind of you have to sit down with how you feel. And over time, the way that you feel will sort of kind of speak for itself. And it can come in different forms, it can come in different shapes or whatever, by tears, by writing something down, by recording a video like this. There's very different, and many different ways of being able to sort of just, I guess, deal with what you're feeling, and try different things. And well, again, I don't think there's ever going to be one set thing I want to talk about in these videos. I feel like I can kind of go on and just kind of bring different things up. But I'm thinking of maybe for these videos, what I can start to do actually is journal down a few things, and kind of go from there, because I'm finding it kind of difficult now to really get back to the point of pretending. But I mean, I guess we could talk about honestly, a lot of what these videos are going to be is me just kind of coming in with an idea, not really thinking so much about what I want to say, but just saying things just to say them. And I'm sure at some point over time, I'll probably develop this craft into something where it's like I'm not just randomly speaking. I'm saying something of some value, and I'm sure that when I get better at that, these words and these messages that I'm putting out are going to land and be able to really maybe save someone's life or change the trajectory of someone's life. But even then, I don't want to fall under the illusion that I have the ability to do those things. Anything I say really is just sort of like a message, and that's it. I think that's really like a full stop. And anything that happens after that was not done because of me, but because of something else, if that makes any sense. But yeah, pretending. It's okay not to pretend, because a lot of times people will find themselves in situations where they'll pretend to sort of just get by, pretend to, and honestly, like when I've been in the past, I can recall in the past various times where I've been in a situation where I felt like I had to pretend to kind of just fit in. And fitting in sometimes, or maybe all of the times, just for the sake of fitting in, isn't really the healthiest thing that you could do for yourself, and even for the people around you, because, well, I mean, I think anybody can sort of spot a pretender. At least I feel like I can spot them quite easily, and I happen to spot them quite often while I'm at work. And sometimes people will put on this mask. Maybe all the times they wear it when they're around other people, and deep down, I know, just like how I struggle and cry myself, or I feel pain inside, I know that everybody else is capable of that, because anything that I can feel is something that other person can feel as well. And a lot of the times when you pretend, a lot of the things that you're like, if you're pretending, you're really pushing away your real self. So the stuff that you really are feeling, or the person who you really are, is being pushed away. And the further that you get from the who you really are, what you really feel, um, the more it's gonna really strike when you get to feel that. Whether that be when you're by yourself, which is the likely scenario. When you're by yourself, that's when there's like a reality check. This is like life's way of just being like, okay, you pushed everything aside. You're by yourself now. You watch a video, or you watch a movie, or you come across something like on an Instagram reel or a TikTok, and then boom, all of a sudden you're just crying and crying and crying. And sometimes maybe that can be confusing. Like, why am I crying? Why am I upset? And sorry, my mind was just like, oh, maybe I'm in a flow state right now. I'm just talking. I don't know. But well, the point is that pretending to some point, I don't want to say completely just do not pretend. I think a part of what this life is really is kind of learning from our experiences. Sorry, let me rephrase it. Not rephrase that. Let me just say that again. A part of this life, a good part of this life, especially in our younger years, I feel like we're really learning from our experiences. We're really learning from what people call mistakes, or what you may think is an error, something that you shouldn't have done. And I think a lot of the things that we think are mistakes, or think is an error, isn't necessarily like, you shouldn't be blaming yourself for something that occurred, or something that you did, or something that you said, or something that someone did to you, which is definitely another topic, actually, in terms of what I'm doing with these videos. In terms of what someone says to you, or what someone did to you, a lot of times, not a lot of times really, but almost every time, the way that someone responds to a certain situation is really just the way that they view themselves, or really how they view the world. So, for instance, I can recall there was this one time where one of my high school buddies, actually one of my middle school buddies, he was going through this phase, or not going through this phase, but there was a time where he was really frustrated, really upset, and really emotional over a specific situation. And I'm not going to dive into his personal business, even though I'm not sharing his name. There was a certain situation with him, and he was really struggling with it, right? And I can speak broadly about this, because really you can sort of apply these words to anybody, because it happens to all of us, right? So there was a time where one of my middle school buddies was really, really upset, and he was coming across to me as the words that he was saying to me, and the way that he was acting. I know that we were not in person when these things were said, but even just over text messages, or even just when we were in a call, like on Discord or something, we were just talking, and there were just certain things that he would say to me, that I would think to myself, like, what did I do to him? What did I say, or what have I done to him for him to act this way? And then it kind of struck me, like, I know I didn't do anything. I know I didn't do anything at all. It must be something that he's dealing with himself internally. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of the times, when people are lashing out that way, when you think to yourself to, like, what did I do, or anything like that, it's so easy for the I guess in this case we can call this, I can call myself a victim of someone lashing out, and a lot of the times, maybe that's not the best word to use, but a lot of the times the victim of a situation like that will think, like, what did I do, or anything like that. You didn't do anything. You probably could have just been having a really good day, and then all of a sudden someone just lashes out on you, and then you're like, well, what the heck, like, what did I do? But we the beautiful thing about what I'm talking about right now is you get to understand that if you know you didn't do anything, then you gotta understand that that person is dealing with something, you know. And depending on how close you are to that person, if you love that person or you care about that person, um, maybe try speaking to them about what's going on. You know, um, we're not here to be anybody's savior or anybody's hero, you know, but even the slightest bit of assistance can definitely at least give someone space. And if they don't want that space, it's okay. Um, they may not necessarily want that space from you, um, and that's not something that you should beat yourself over, or nothing that you should be ashamed of. You know, at least you try to give that person that space to kind of open up about what's going on, and you know, if that person so happens to confide in you to want to talk about it, then you've now given that person a comfortable space to just kind of be able to talk about what's actually really going on beneath the surface. And you're now allowing that person to no longer pretend, you know, to pretend that everything's okay when it isn't. Um, and that kind of, I guess that kind of went full circle in terms of pretending. I didn't think I'd be able to really find a way to talk about it, but maybe that made sense. Maybe that didn't. I just kind of am curious as to how long we are talking in this video. Um, Holy smokes, it's already been 16 minutes. Okay, I think that really didn't feel like 16 minutes. That felt like maybe 5 minutes. Maybe I was thinking that was maybe like top 7 minutes of me speaking. But okay, I think that's it. I'll definitely be revisiting this topic in terms of pretending down the road. I don't know what I'll talk about in my next video, but I do want to get better at this. I know that this has nothing to do with pretending anymore. Now I'm just kind of talking about maybe something I should have talked about in the first ever video. But I want to get better at this because there's a lot of different things. Again, like I said, there's a lot of different things that I want to talk about from my personal experiences. And I know that I'm not somebody who has lived a bunch of life in terms of like I'm only just 23, and I think I said something in the first video where I was like I've lived 23 years of life and I have a lot I want to get off my chest or something like that. In terms of me living a lot of life, I think maybe I just meant that like I've had my fair share of experiences at this point where I feel kind of comfortable to talk about them in some way. Some things I feel like I have a decent understanding of, not that I understand it fully, but just have like a somewhat decent understanding of it that I'm like, okay, I feel like I can talk about this, and maybe somewhere out there there's somebody that can listen to this and be like, okay, that helped me or something like that. But yeah, I want to be able to journal down some things, not a lot, but just kind of like a few words or something like that, just to kind of like set me on the path of something to talk about and talk about in depth or something like that. But yeah, I think we did it. We did well for a second video. Um, and again, this will be something I'll revisit at some point. But that's about it. There was something I actually like, maybe like an outro that I want to start to do for these videos, and it's the words "Now go enjoy your life," you know, and I really do mean that. Go do something that makes you feel like you're alive. Go do something. Not only like if you do something for yourself, not only are you doing it for yourself, but you're also doing it for others. If that makes any sense, which is something that I'll talk about in other videos too. So yeah, now go enjoy your life.